Hey, hello. Good evening, everybody. It's evening now in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you, Andrea, for hosting me. Welcome to my mini workshop. What is my mini workshop about? It's about questions. So, how about we go right into it? Can everybody see the slides? Welcome.
Yes, all good.
So if you feel like, oh no, I'm logging out, just come back. Be more than happy to bring you back. So this is a little bit about me. I'm a certified coach. I am a certified a lot of things. This is just a page to show you that I put in a lot of effort to manage my development because I live by Jim Rohn's quote, which is when the things that we build end up building us. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we build great things and we grow our skills, we grow our competencies. So here is something that I learned from a coach that I really admire. I'm going to ask you for a number from 1 to 7. Okay, 1 is the lowest, 7 is the highest. And the question is, what's your number that you're going to give me during this quick time that we will be together? Your level of concentration, your level of attention, your focus. So is it going to be a 1? 1 is like, I don't really want to focus on you, Faz. Or is it a 7? Like, I've put everything aside. I'm here. I am physically, mentally here. So I got a 7 from Andrea. Thank you, Andrea. I got a 7 from Jasmine. Thank you. Whatever number works with me because it's your choice. But it really encourages me because I already booked the number 7 for you all. So I'm going to ask you a question because this is about how to ask questions, right? What do you see on this page? A paperclip? All right. So wherever you are, please put in what do we use it for? Right? We use it to connect papers together, right? So now I ask you for 2 minutes. I'm asking you to write down as many new ways as possible to use a paperclip. Okay. So for those of you who are here in this Zoom room, please use the chat box. And I look forward to here to see what ideas you have. Oh, earrings. I never thought of that, believe it or not. Earrings is a good idea. It reminds me of the earrings that caught my heart when I was traveling once. And that was the only thing that I got for myself. I use that too, Jasmine. Connector for my dresses when my zippers suddenly split because they're spoiled. They're great for some levels of undergarments too, to be honest. Then that's another story for another time. Yes, DIY. They're great for definitely attaching papers together. Phone SIM card remover. Yes, that's right. So Carrie also has the same idea. To open the SIM card slot on handphones. So with that question, what was the question that I asked? What are new ways to use a paperclip? And we start thinking, right? We start thinking about, what else can I use a paperclip for? So thank you for that. So now, what do you want to take away from our time together? It's just a short workshop, a mini workshop, and I hope that what you want to take away, we can give. So let's take a quick moment here and share. What do you want to take away from our time together? Good use of questions. Thank you. Yes, because this workshop is about how to ask good questions. Thank you very much. Anything else? What do you want to take away from our time together? Okay. I love that. Thank you. Building better relationships with the right way of asking questions. Because I'm going to give you the spoiler alert up front. Knowing how to ask questions is just using half of the magic. The other half is learning how to ask. So knowing the right questions, knowing the greatest questions is just half of the magic, ladies and gentlemen. This is from me. I've been asking questions since I was 3. So I apologize to my parents. I usually do that a lot because, oh my goodness, I stress them out. I ask questions since I was 3. Why are there accidents? When at night, is there a cloud covering our sky? Curious chatters. Yes. And I ask all sorts of questions. Why is this important to us? Because it's good to recognize this. As children, how do we learn? We learn by asking questions, right? But what happens when we grow up? Have we gotten too used to don't ask the question, just do? Does that sound familiar? So we are here this evening so that by the end of our time together, you will be able to develop a positive and empowering questioning culture for yourself. Why empowering? Because 25 years of me in HR and project management, I found the beauty in asking questions. When I ask questions, it starts people to think for themselves. And when they think for themselves, they do stuff themselves. And they come to me, the people that report to me, they come to me to confirm, to disconfirm, to double check. And they themselves add value to their lives. Does that not sound empowering? You adding value to your lives. So that's my aim, why I am here. All right. So I'm going to ask straight away, what types of questions are powerful? So what is a learning question? What does a learning question do? A learning question helps people learn. No trick question there. It's really obvious. Yeah, like why? Asking the core reason, right? And then what do we have next? What is an empowering question? An empowering question helps people to think for themselves. Now, a lot of managers, I used to work with a lot of managers when I was younger. I still do, to be honest. And people come to me and say, help me, I want my people to think for themselves. So the first question that I ask them is, what kind of conversations do you have? And they look at me and they say, gosh, I never thought about it that way. What is the power of your conversation? We can talk about that, but for the moment, questions play an important role. Okay, so here, what's a decision question? It's a question that helps people to see what they need to do. What is it that they can do next? It helps them to see clearly, and clarity of thought is a big thing in my world. All right, explore that you probably would be able to guess. It's questions that help people understand something new or different. Okay, what's a feeling question? If you're saying a feeling question is a question that helps me discover emotions. Yeah, it brings out emotions. It focuses on emotions. And a thinking question is a question that provokes thinking. So, which one of these questions do you use most in your life? People in the group, feel free, use the chat box. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Feeling, learning, thinking, empowering. Thank you. Exploratory. Yes. As a certified coach, I use all of these. As a facilitator, I lean more towards the learning question, the thinking question, the feeling question. Yes. So these are the kind of questions that fill my life, to be honest. And that's why some of my good friends call me the question queen. And here's a little story. When I was still working, I used to have a boss who would call me up and say, Faz, I need you to go and join this meeting. And I went, what meeting is this, boss? They said, this meeting, ancillary marketing, ancillary income. So I'm like, this is not my role. What do you want me to do there? Just sit there and ask questions. Oh, okay. So I had fun. I definitely had fun because there's so many discovery, exploratory questions that I could ask. So let's look at some of the examples, shall we? Now, what are some examples of a learning question? What did you learn from this? What do you hope to learn from this? So here's an example. What did you learn from this? And this question will help people to see, what did you discover from this? Which part did you learn the most from? Which was a new learning element for you? So learning question is about helping people to discover what they learned, right? So this is a simple question. Example here, what did you learn from this? What about an empowering question? Knowing that this is the decision you want to take, what would you do? To coaches out there, this is a great question because you've already arrived at this level. You're climbing the mountain, right? You're climbing the mountain. Your coachee is climbing the mountain. So halfway up, the coachee has discovered, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm not forced to do this. So knowing that this is the decision you want to take, what would you do? So these kind of questions open the mind, and the person who received these questions will start thinking, will start feeling, will start planning. And I hope against hope will start also to hope for better future for them so that they can put into action and achieve it. All right. So what do we have next? What is a decision question example? What are the actions you want to take now? What are you going to do now? What do you plan to do? Decision is action related. What actions are you going to take? Okay. So I have a feeling that all of you have used this question before, but here is the time for you to discover how much more powerful it is. When I was 12, I got the offer to go to a boarding school, which was rather a distance from my house. I was from the East Coast. My school, my secondary boarding school, was in the West Coast. So my mother was not so happy with me wanting to go, because I really was looking forward to go there because she wanted me to go to school nearer to our house. But then, how do I do this? I fill in the form. So I went to my primary school office. I brought the form home. I filled everything in until the part where I had to sign it. And I felt a hesitation. And I asked my father, Papa, what do I do? Now, these are parents from, I am Generation X, so they're baby boomers, all right? So they don't normally ask questions. But that was the time, the first time ever, my father asked me this question. What do you want to do? And it went straight into me, and I immediately answered, I want to go. I want to go there. And then he said, well, sounds like you know what to do. And I signed the form, sent it in, had a great blast, 5 years of school, and a lot of my schoolmates then are still friends today. So that was my first ever coaching conversation where my father used a question to help me discover a clearer path to what I wanted to do. And I owned that action. That's the interesting thing, why we ask questions. That's the benefit, because we want to help the people to own that decision. Because it's what they want to do, it's what their plan, it's what they see, it's based on their research. But how do we get these things out? We ask questions that fit the situation. Okay? So what are examples of an exploratory question? What would you do differently? So if you are in a training or in a learning experience, you've probably heard this question. If you have a chance to do this again, would you do some things differently? Because we've got to check first. And that's a closed question, yes? Because the answer could be yes, no, I don't know, I'm not sure. Right, so what would you do differently? And then feeling. What questions do you use, Andrea, to discover feelings or to bring out feelings or emotion? Lovely. Lovely. How was your day? It reminds me of one of my favorite questions. How are you? And then I wait for the response. So here, one of the examples that I recommend is, what is your heart telling you? So this reminds me of a team coaching session that I did in Manila a few years ago. So the group was together. One of them was the problem presenter. So his problem was, roughly in a few sentences, he thinks he thought his boss did not like him. He thought that his boss was making things difficult for him. And it made him very sad. It made his heart feel very heavy. So he described it that way. So people were asking questions, and then one young lady who worked with him just looked at him and asked, "Are you happy?" 3 words, right? Are you happy? But the way that she asked it, it wasn't an attack. It was an honest, pure question. Are you happy? And our problem presenter just paused and just tears started coming out. Yes, I am happy. I am happy in this job. I am happy going through traffic. I am happy doing what I'm doing here. So the next questions were easy. What's it worth for you to have a conversation with your boss? What's it worth for you to see actually what is going on? And that was the action that he took. And he did not resign. He is still there. It's a good friend of ours. So that question was like the tipping point that helped him see clearly. A valuable question. Okay, and the last question here. What is the lie you tell yourself most often? Okay, that's a provocative question, isn't it? It could be, what is in your mind right now? What are you thinking about? This is a question that provokes thought. What is the lie you tell yourself most often? Lists and lists of these questions are available. So my question to you now is, which ones do you use the most? Do you use these to reflect your intention? That is the foundation of how to ask great questions. The question needs to reflect our intention. And my good friend, my MD who works with me in Compass, he has this really interesting thought. Think about the questions before you ask them. So everything needs to be real. So we think about the question. Is the question reflecting what we really feel, what we really want to know? Yeah. Because our intention is in here. Nobody can see it. Our questions are the behaviors, the actions that we take. Do they reflect our intention? Do they reflect our purpose? And all this thinking, these tunes of thinking happened in our head really, really fast. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to offer you a small gift. How? The actual steps. How to ask questions. When I ask this, a lot of people will look at me like, huh? How? I just asked lah. Exactly. What if I suggest to you some steps that can help you make the most out of your questions? Would that mean something important to you? I hope you're saying yes. All right. So A, B, C, E, R. Apa je? First we ask. Just ask the question. Let's think of a question right now. What am I having for dinner later? So you're asking yourself, right? Or are you asking your loved one? Darling, what are we having for lunch later? Then you pause. Ladies and gentlemen, this may sound, what's the word I'm looking for? Suddenly the word left my mind. It doesn't sound automatic, but the pause is actually the most valuable thing you can do right after you ask a question. And whether you smile or not when you pause, it's entirely up to you. I used to have friends who reported to me, would always remind me, boss, can you not smile after you ask a question? Can you maintain a neutral face? So I asked them, why? Because when you smile as you pause after a question, you look very scary, like you're ready to pounce. Oh, so feedback, very important. So you ask the question and then you pause. Give your audience some time to digest the question. All right. And then if the pause is so long, you call it. What do you think? Or you call someone in a name. You call someone's name if you're in a class. Or you walk closer to get closer to them. And that's also a form of calling. It's my tip when I'm in a classroom. I walk closer to the table quietly and I smile at them. Okay, so after we discuss this model, then oh, you call us. I say, yes, I'm calling you now. And then you evaluate. What a great idea. Or, okay, wow, you're gonna cook dinner? I love you. So give your response. Andrea just said, that sounds dangerous. Yes, a question can be very dangerous. Yes. And then repeat. It's a cycle. Ask the question, pause. Because that's how we create a great conversation. Okay? And then call by calling the name, by asking, by coming up with a sound or non-verbal, by walking towards the person or the group so that they can answer or respond, and then evaluate. Give your feedback on the response that was given. And keep on using this so that you can continue to think about the question you are about to ask. And the question reflects your intention. Okay, so this is basically what I have. I usually use this when I talk to my coaches, and I usually start like this. Imagine, and I'm asking all of you to imagine as well. You come into the office or you start your day, however you start your work day, yeah? And then you've got one of your team members coming to you, boss, I got this problem. Can you help me with this? So you, as you're walking, you're listening, say, okay, so what do you normally say? Do you ask them a couple of questions? Do you ask questions to help them to get clarity, or to help them to check and balance what they already have in mind, what they may want to suggest to you? Or do you say, okay, leave this with me, I'll take a look at it and I'll get back to you? More often, this is the latter that a lot of managers, a lot of leaders use. And the thing about this is, if you only have one person coming to you, okay, you're safe, kind of. But if you have 5 people coming to you, by the time you arrive at your office, you have all these monkeys on your back because they have left the backs of the people who talked to you earlier. Can you all see that? So you have these to manage, and you haven't talked to your bosses yet. What about their monkeys? And what about their assignments to you? So that's why to learn to ask questions, to double check, to help discover what do the people think, or what do your team have in mind? What can they do that can set them off on a path of action is a skill that is really important. It's really important. All right. So this is the little story that I tell the managers lah, basically. Yeah, how many monkeys do you want on your back before you start your work? And how questions can help. Okay, so what are the questions that can help? People come to you and then you can say, okay, what do you think is the real problem here? That's a question. What do you think we should do? Is it wrong to ask this to people who report to you? It's not wrong, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the 21st century. We ask questions because everybody is a resource and everybody can be empowered to think and to have ideas. Okay? So I'm sounding really serious here because I really believe in this. Right? So what do you think? What should we do? Oh, I don't know lah, boss. I do have some things in mind, but I think I need to do a bit of research first. Okay, do that and come back to me. All right, so that's one monkey gone. And you meet another person. Boss, what do I do with this? Okay, what can we do? What are the available options? Who else can help you with this? I haven't spoken to any of them yet. Or, oh, sorry, boss, I haven't thought about it yet. Okay, isn't this a good time to start thinking about it? Yes, yes, it is. There's another monkey gone. And your back is clear. Yeah, so that's how much I believe in it. That's how much I love questions. And the most important thing I feel is, what are the questions that we ask ourselves? And I myself, I am guilty of that too. What are the questions that we must ask ourselves to get more clarity in our way forward? So what have we done so far? In half an hour, I have shared with you, I hope, reasons through small stories, the beauty of questions. Yeah, I appreciate them, and I hope you will too. And a list of powerful questions that I hope you will start to go and explore and see which questions can work for you. All right, so those are the 2 things that we have started to look at in this half an hour. I open the room to questions, whatever questions you have. If I can answer it myself, I'd be happy to. If cannot, we'll ask for help. Thank you, Andrea. I've got this question. What is the process of evaluation? In general, to evaluate in this context is to give feedback on the answer that you receive. After you ask the question, after you pause, after you call, you get a response. So how does this response fit with your question? So that's the start of another conversation. It can even be in the form of another question. Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? That could be a starting point of an evaluation. The normal stuff would be, okay, great. I like that. I love that idea. I'm going to get dressed right now because you're going to take me out to dinner. I love that idea. So it's about giving feedback to the response that you receive when you ask the question. Having this evaluation here, my suggestion is think about the evaluation. Positive reinforcements can help the conversation to grow. Because how does it feel when you answer the question and the response is, okay, that sounds interesting, tell me more. Or, wow, that is a really interesting idea. How do you suggest we do this? So you get the conversation going and you feel motivated to continue. You feel like you're being appreciated. Observing and listening always. Thank you, Sharmi. It usually is part of this magic of asking a good question. Here, what we're doing is, how can we ask a good question? You just reminded me of what I was coached on when I was working in an airline. I worked in an airline for 7 years before I left. And we worked in an open environment. And I think I told this story in a panel conversation before, where when people used to come to me and ask me for stuff or ask me questions, but my hands would be on my laptop keyboard and I would just, yeah, what? So what is the perception when people see me like that? That I'm busy, I don't pay attention to them, I'm definitely not listening to them. So they don't have that conversation with me until my senior manager, my head of department, asked me, do you realize what do you do when people come and ask you questions while you are sitting at your laptop at your desk? And I realized, oh, okay, actually I don't pay attention to them, because I figured when they come and have these kind of small conversations with me, they're interrupting my work. So the bigger learning here that I had was these conversations are part of my work. So I made a clear move of listening, of observing. And how did I do that? I took my fingers away from my laptop and just, okay, I look at the person coming to me and say, what's up? So my attention on them. And it helps with the conversation, yes. So just asking a conversation is just half of the magic. Because when we listen, when we observe, it conditions, it helps us to modify how we ask the question. Because the how is always the magic. And in this case, how we ask the question is really based on how we observe, what we listen to, who we listen to, how do we listen? How do we listen? With what are we listening? That's another conversation on listening. Thank you for asking that question. I hope that helps to confirm what you are thinking.
Yes, thank you.
It is my pleasure. Okay, any other questions? I wish we could see questions from the YouTube, the Facebook page. Thank you, Jasmine. How do we evaluate a negative situation or circumstance? In order for me to respond to this, I will ask, what is the value of evaluating it? Why do we want to evaluate a negative situation or circumstance? Do we want to make sense of it? Do we want to understand the complete nature of this situation? Do we want to have a clear understanding of what this whole circumstance is about? I think, based on what I have done and what I have seen, it's better to do this with a clear mind and questions. Because in this case, I have one question. How do we evaluate a negative situation or circumstance? Remove any biasness. Nice. Because we probably want to decide or we want to make a balanced decision, yes? So we need to make sure, or I would need to make sure that I ask the right questions to discover what is the real situation here, so that I can identify how many perspectives are in this picture. What is the cause of the problems, if there are problems here? What's happening? My mentor has this great way of asking this question, what happened? So it's just 2 words, right? What happened? So if he's talking to his children, he would ask, what happened? The tone is different. And if it's a serious question, it's an emergency, what happened? And these different tones that he uses creates the energy that helps him to find out what happened. And that, to me, that is a neutral question that can work for us. And it removes the possibility, as much as possible, it removes the possibility of us blaming someone. So, for example, when I first joined one of my employers, I wanted to find out how do the teams communicate with each other, because I was based in the office, but these are operations teams. So I said, hey, what do you guys do? I mean, how do you guys work? Because I don't come from this environment. So they told me, well, before we start our shift, we have a briefing. After we finish our shift, we have another briefing. Oh, nice. Can I see the briefing? I won't say anything. Oh, sure, come and join us. So the briefing is very public. It's not really in a room because space was limited. So the first ever time I was there, I told the shift manager, don't tell anybody lah I'm here, because until you announce, make it like I'm some kind of a VIP, because that's the nature of the organization and the operations. So he said, okay, so I just sit at the back. So I sat at the back, I listened, okay, they asked questions. And then came this question. Okay, just now we had, I can't remember the number now, so I'm just gonna put a number, 3 flights that left late, delayed. Okay, now and I'm thinking, all right, that's good. They addressed this right at the moment. Okay, so for those gates who handle this late thing, who did what here? What happened? What did you do? And I went, oh my goodness. I wouldn't be able to say anything. Everybody's watching. Passengers walking. I'm like, okay, relax. It's not your gig, Faz. You're just here to observe. So the answers came just enough to answer the question. There's no additional information. So, and I'm thinking, what about those who the flights left early? That's something good, right? Why don't we find out more about that? So I'm thinking I should ask the duty manager. So the questions that I ask the duty manager must make him feel like I am not blaming him. I just want to find out more. So I asked him, so thank you for letting me sit this briefing. So does this happen often? Because I hear you asking for more information on the teams that handle the flights that were delayed. Oh, yeah, because we want to fix it. So what does this tell me? The intention is good. We want to fix it. Oh, exactly. Thank you, Sharmini. So Sharmini just asked, would you say then that being in the moment, practicing self-awareness, situation awareness, help to be clear on asking the right question. Yes, if I did not calm myself, if I did not look at this from a slightly one step away from what is happening, I would probably rush in and do the wrong thing. So I waited. It's okay. It flight already left. I'm not making things better if I rushed in. So in the conversation, we got to discuss with me and the duty manager. So I said, you know what, I really want to know what good thing did the teams do that helped the flights that left early. And he went, oh yeah, I never asked that. What about asking it in the next briefing? Yeah, we have time, kan? Oh, okay lah, I will ask. So bit by bit. At the end of several briefings, where once they were more comfortable with me, I also went in and asked some questions. And basically, people were more comfortable to say things. People were more comfortable to ask questions. People were more comfortable to suggest. It's just a simple thing. I am new. So when somebody flying, the passenger flying say, oh, this is new. Okay, I won't ask you, I'll go ask someone who's more senior. These are the best ideas may come from the people who are doing the job every day. Our role as leaders is to ask the right questions. It's like digging for the coins, money in the sofa. So that could come up with some interesting surprises that can help make our day. So I remember that until today. Yeah. And being in the moment, I have one quick story that really reflects what I needed to do there. I was facilitating a training, a development program, and I asked this question: can you all share with me a positive experience that you had with a leader in the organization? So one team leader came up and said, okay, Miss Faz, I have something to share. I said, yes, please. So what he shared was, I did a mistake. And then the director of operations came to me and tarot me very bad, really got mad at me, shouted at me. And in my heart, I'm like, oh dear, when does this get to the good part? When does this get to the positive experience? So what I did was, okay, let's listen until he finishes so that my face appears calm, even though I'm sure in the first couple of seconds, it must have seen my surprise. So I said, okay, great. So what happened? Where did you have this conversation? There at the counter. Oh, I see. Again, I had to, okay, relax, girl. Silence the voices in my own head. So when he's done with his facts, I asked him, so how was this a positive experience for you with regards to growing your skills, developing yourself? So he said, because I remember until today, I never did that mistake again. Okay, I hear you. Okay, that is a positive experience. So now, how do you teach people who report to you? Oh, that one, I realized not everybody would be okay with this approach. Okay, so panic, not necessary. So I was clear to see and to help the whole room see that the most important thing at that moment, the most important thing is to recognize that not everybody can handle this kind of face-to-face action, really angry. So I was glad that I managed myself well at the moment. So it is really about how you manage yourself. If you want to learn to really, do you really want to learn to get the most out of questions. It is really about asking and listening and observing. So any more questions? Thank you, Shamini. Questions that made my hair become white. Okay. We have 5 minutes left. Love to hear any more questions.
Let me just ask a question. Jasmine, Carrie, Charm, Simfong, Sunny, would you like to ask questions in person? Because then I can stop the live stream. If you can put a yes or a no into the chat, that would help me a lot. And in the meantime, Faz, can you tell a little bit to the audience who is watching this on replay, where can people reach you?
Thank you, Andrea. I prepared this code you can scan. It will go to my link tree, and then you can click to go to my website, to my LinkedIn page, to my Facebook page, to my podcast. And that is my phone for WhatsApp messages. That's my email, and that's my LinkedIn address.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now I will just stop the live stream. Thank you for the people who are watching us now, and